Hey guys, and welcome back to the beautiful madness that is Total War Warhammer, and boy oh boy do we have a strange game for you. We have the mighty Lipto leading the forces of Karak Kadrin on the right hand side there, and Mr. Tefel leading the forces of the Tomb Kings. Notoriously a bad matchup for the Tomb Kings, I should say, but the Dwarfs have one or two crazy strategies that they're going to be trying out today, and I like them quite a bit. But before we get in there, let's have a look at the Tomb King forces. So up in the skies we have two units of Carrion. These guys are absolutely vital and pivotal, in my opinion, in this matchup to try to deal with gyrocopter spam, but only two units will have a hard time if they come hard pressed up against 4 to 5 gyrocopters, which the Dwarfs are known to bring. Down on the ground of some Tomb Guard of halberds, you might see this and think, you know what, this is a bit of a weird situation. Why are you bringing anti-large tools up against the Dwarfs, who only have one or two large entities themselves? Well, it's the fact that these halberds are actually pretty decent armor-piercing weapons, and the Tomb Guard are elite troops. They should be able to grind their way through a wide array of Dwarf warriors, longbeards, and other such units, so they still need to be really careful. Minus a blasting charges can certainly rip them a new one, and they'll be back from whence they came before long. We do have a little Tomb Scorpion down in the middle, one of the coolest looking constructs in the game. Looks absolutely badass as always. It does skitter and leap into battle. And just behind it we have the Screaming Skull catapults, once considered a meme, but now they're actually relatively commonly taken. I like them quite a bit, mainly due to their discourage effect, which is as take cover for 10 seconds, you get -8 leadership. Always useful, not so much up against the Dwarves because their leadership is so rock hard, but again, it will help in the end game. We do have double tomb prints on Chariot. This is very powerful. They are anti-infantry, armor-piercing maniacs. Can be running over as many Dwarfs as possible. And then we have Cetra the Imperishable leading the charge. And it looks like he's brought a massive toolkit here with the Blessed Blade of Batra, the Wrath of Batra, Incantation of Desiccation, Protection, Curse Blades. Oh my god, he is coming in with all of the goodies and looking awesome as always on top of his cat. But the Dwarf build is the real reason I'm here today, because just look at it. It is beautiful in the royal red of Karak Kadrin. We have 4 units of the basic gyrocopters. Now, the reason we have these guys is to clear out chaff, because the rest of the build is very thematic. It is a full Slayer rush. We have Giant Slayers, we have Slayers who are chevroned up, we have the King of Slayers himself, Ungrim Iron Fist, leading the charge, and he looks so badass with his gigantic mohawk. He's coming in with all of the goodies today. The Axe of Dargo, Red Ruin, Deadly Onslaught, Foe Seeker, Death Blow. He is coming fully equipped alongside his mighty Giant Slayers here, and it's a relatively simple plan. The Slayers and the Giant Slayers kill all the constructs, can chase down enemy archers and other such units as well relatively well, and the gyrocopters kill the infantry. But one thing they did not prepare for, of course, were these Carrion, who can harass and annoy the gyrocopters with not impunity. I mean, the gyrocopters can shoot back, and they probably want to stay relatively close together so they can support and aid each other where possible, because winning map control here could be absolutely massive. Though it does look like 2 gyrocopters have managed to escape, doing a cheeky little bombing run down on the Screaming Skull catapult. Unfortunately, these are just the basic gyrocopters, so that won't do too much damage, but they are coming in now doing some good work with their steam cannons. Screaming Skull catapults screaming into the afterlife once more. Down in the main fight, it looks like the Slayers have managed to push up onto Cetra. They really need to take this fight into the forest if possible to give those negative debuffs to the Tomb Prince as well as Cetra. But they're having a good time so far. Ungrim Iron Fist is in here, dishing out the pain. He gets a big old breath attack to the face, but that's like a lovely, lovely little cold shower just to wake him up. And he's going to be swinging the mighty Axe of Dargo itself and going after Cetra. But a beautifully well-placed... It looks like, is this going to be the Desiccation? It is the Incantation of Desiccation going down, lowering the stats of all these Slayers to 0 melee attack and 0 melee defense. This is going to buy time for the Tomb Princes as well as Cetra just to ramrod their way through this huge amount of Slayer infantry. Looks like Ungrim has managed to fall back in a desperate retreat, however. Up in the skies, it does look like the Carrion are slowly losing the fight, but they're doing some pretty decent damage. One gyrocopter has actually been forced off at the moment. The Carrion, though, are starting to waver and get dragged down. In the main fight, halberds are doing ridiculously well up against the Slayers. That Incantation is still active, a very powerful hex ability, which more people need to bring. The Tomb Guard halberds are twirling their blades of death and doing a good job up against the Slayers, who, you know, 26 kills isn't shabby, but at the end of the day, there is so many Tomb Guard to get through here, and they are starting to struggle a little bit. However, they've done really good damage to Cetra, as well as the Tomb Princes, who are currently being focus fired down now by the gyrocopters, which could be a bit of a mistake. The gyrocopters need to be used to clear out the Tomb Guard, in my opinion, because they're going to be a really sticky unit for the Slayers to deal with. But at the same time, I understand as a Dowie player, you see Chariots, you see red, and you instantly want to kill them as quickly as possible. Chariots are roaming into the back here, trying to shut down the Droneback Slayers, who have managed to work pretty decent damage now onto the Tomb Guard, who themselves have 40 kills, but Giant Slayers as well as Slayers will eventually drag you down. Gyrocopters doing some nice little bombing runs, as well as those steam cannon shots coming in, eviscerating Tomb Guard and Tomb Prince alike. Where is Ungrim? Well, he is in his element right now, going toe-to-toe with Cetra, who does unfortunately brush him aside like a little bug, and carries on swagging into the battlefield, because he does not want to stand and fight Ungrim. Looks like he's going to give it a good go, and this is a big mistake, because Cetra will get slammed by Ungrim. He'll do damage back as well. The Slayer King isn't immune to damage, but boy oh boy does he hit so hard, and you can see the Tomb Prince is starting to be dragged down here in the back by this rather loyal unit of Slayers, who is fighting to the death alongside Ungrim. One Tomb Prince down, one to go. A lot of the cannons are now focusing down Cetra, which again, I think they need to be going after the Tomb Guard. As you can see, the Slayers really starting to struggle on the front lines of the battlefield. Balance of power, though, is in the favour of the mighty Dowie. So steam cannon shots are starting to do some pretty decent work. This Tomb Scorpion is going to be going after the Lord here, seeing that he's a bit weakened. Perhaps the Ungrim in his old age has lessened his killing power, but I don't know if I agree with that, because as you can see, Cetra, Axodargo popped and Deadly Onslaught. This Tomb Scorpion, its health is being eviscerated. Not having a good day, instantly is going to have to retreat away from the Slayer King. This is a bit of a problem with the characters in general, is, yeah, you don't want to fight Ungrim, that's fine, just don't go near him. it works pretty well. You can see Cetra is scooting a little bit close to the boot right there. Ungrim is trying to hunt him down where possible. It looks like this Tomb Prince is about to feel the bite of the axe, and does indeed go down. There's a few Slayers left alive, but not that many whatsoever, and there is plenty of Tomb Guard, 69 over here, and in the main fight we have 61 Tomb Guard, 47. Balanced power is all of a sudden in favour of the Tomb Kings. Despite this, Cetra is getting very low. Ungrim is down to just 300 HP, but likewise Cetra only 660, and I certainly know who hits harder, but there is a lot of loyal Tomb Guard around, and it looks like Ungrim does get gobbled up by the might of the Kitty Cat, which itself probably is going to go down here as well. I'm not sure if the Dwarfs can find their way back into this one. It was a furious affair. We still have 20 Giant Slayers going strong and 3 Gyrocopters in the sky, but they're all using up their ammunition. Just one volley left from one of them, and the Cetra the Imperishable is probably going to be biting the bullet rather wisely, or not wisely I should say, rather riskily, jumps after the Giant Slayers, trying to seize victory. But if I know anything about Slayers, they like to go out with a bang, and Cetra doth fall. He may not serve in life, but he will serve the Dowie kings and gods in the afterlife. As the Slayers complete their quest, they can certainly now die rather happy. Armor losses kicks in. Not going to really affect the Dwarf build too much. I mean, the Gyrocopters were out of ammunition and will be running away, and it's now time for the Slayers to make their last desperate stand amongst the foliage and bones of friend and foe. And the Giant Slayers are really cool models. I'm a big fan of them. Their double-handed axes are so freaking badass, but I do fear that there's not going to be much hope for them here. The Tomb Scorpion's still strong. There's a load of Tomb Guard dotted around, and those attack animations are really quite scary from the Tomb Scorpion. It's a very hard unit to actually pin down, and it looks like the last of the Slayers is going to go down. Just 4 bros fighting back-to-back, going out like Chads, the way all Slayers want to go. The Carrion will swoop down to pick at their eyes and bones after death. And it's not going to be a ceremonial death in the form of, a grand funeral or anything, because they will get feasted upon here by the Carrion. But, they went out how they wanted to go, fighting. A Pyrrhic victory for the Tomb Kings, not much left on their side whatsoever. An absolutely ridiculous but awesome game played by Mr. Tefel, as well as Lipto there. I actually quite like this Dwarf build. It is 100% a risky Hail Mary shot, but it's really not bad whatsoever. A lot of the way Tomb Kings like to play this is like you Shopti and Chariot Kite, and the Slayers counter chariots relatively effectively if they can pin the enemy in place, which of course can be a bit of a problem with chariots having so much mass and being able to pull through. But Giant Slayers are the ultimate chariot killers. They can pin them in really well and dispatch them quite comfortably. And we can see some pretty decent damage value across the board from this build. And I like the formula, the Slayer push, and then use the Gyrocopters to kill the infantry. The problem Lipto had here is he really zoned in on killing those chariots as well as Cetra, and it kind of backfired in the end game, because the Slayers can kill the chariots. Yes, they're going to take a load of damage, but it's absolutely fine. You can keep calm and kill those single entities with your Slayers. That's what they're designed to do, and the Gyrocopters need to spend more time killing the infantry, I think, rather than focusing down those single entities. But hey, who's to know if that would work or not? Maybe it wouldn't have worked, and the single entities who have slain all the Slayers, and you've got a load of Gyrocopters, no ammo left at the end of the game. But well played to both these two champs. We will go through the damage dealt and damage value of all of these units in just a second. But if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a big fat juicy thumbs up, subscribe as well for more Total War Warhammer content into the future, and comment down below, what did you think of this Mad Hatter inspired Lipto build? I absolutely loved it. What do you think of the matchup as a whole? Do you agree with me that it's relatively heavily dwarf favoured, or do you think I'm a mad duckling and the Tomb Kings are actually the true rulers of this matchup? There are links down below in the description. If you'd like to support my channel, there's a link down there to my Patreon page. Also a link to my Discord where you can submit replays, get involved in the tournaments and events that I host, and just generally chill out with a load of cool people and find people to play Total War Warhammer against. On to damage dealt and damage value here though today. Lipto with the absolute Chad build, Ungrim Iron Fist, 1,559 damage value. I don't think he necessarily needs all his items, he still kind of fulfills his goal, and a lot of them are a little bit of overkill, but you know, he got in there and did out the damage. Only 2 kills, unfortunately, but massive damage to the Tomb Princes, the Scorpion, and etc. He can rest easy. 1,300 damage value on the first Slayer, 600, 630, 897, and 1,191 across the board for those Slayers. You can certainly see the ones which engaged with Tomb Guard and which ones engaged with the single entities. As for the Giant Slayers, they did really well. 1,000 damage value and 1,438. They're one of your units which is going to be able to deal with enemy infantry relatively effectively because of their AP. So if you do bring in some more heavily armoured troops like the Tomb Guard, they can still cleave through them with their mighty two-handed axes. Good play of the Gyrocopters. Again, I still think they should have been going after the Tomb Guard. I like the early assassination on the Scrim Skull Catapult, but none of them got massive damage value. Their guns are just really not designed to take down those single entities. You can see here just shy of 600 damage, 680, 400, 300, those kind of damage range. As for the Tomb Kings, really impressed Mr. Tefel managed to pull this one out. His Tomb Guard are very key. Not the craziest damage value across the board, but good kills. 58 kills, 53, 59. These don't seem like huge numbers, but when you take into consideration the Dwarfs only fielded 433 troops, that's some really awesome stuff. The Tomb Princes were pretty clutch as well. 1,200 damage value and 948. Good mobility with them, bouncing between combats, not leaving them anywhere too long to get pinned in, stuck down, and dragged to their doom, though he did lose his entire hero and Lord Core at the later stages of the game. Such the Imperishable, an impressive 2,389 damage value. The fact he bought Desiccation, or Incantation of Desiccation, is huge. If he didn't have that, he certainly would have lost, because in the early stages, those Slayers were surrounding his characters. Of course, that's what the Tomb King player wanted, but lowering their melee attack and melee defense to 0 allowed these single entities to really rip and tear their way through the dowie, and certainly put the Dwarfs on the back foot in the early stages. Pretty good use of the Karen, not much he could do with them here, just hunt down Gyrocopters, and that's what they attempted to do. Tomb Scorpion struggled to get in the right engagement, 420 damage value, 0 on the Scrim Skull Catapult, missing its early shots and then being destroyed by the might of the Gyrocopter. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed this one. Until next time, peace, and as always, stay awesome.